At this time, I'd like to call the Monday, August 14th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting to order. That brings us to the first item on the agenda, which is roll call. Altoff,
Here.
Charnel,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Hema, Lindell,
Here.
Pidd, here, and Price is absent. That brings us to number 3, which would be the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I've got a motion by Mr. Altoff and a second by Mr. Hema. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to number 4, which is the approval of the minutes from the July 10th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes.
Got a motion by Mr. Lindell
I'll second it.
and a second by Mr. Daniels. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to number 5, which is public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Please approach the microphone and before speaking, give your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anyone here for anything other than what we're discussing as far as the properties with the multifamily housing? All right, that brings us to number 6. At this time, I'd like to reopen the tabled public hearing for the conditional use permit for resolution 2017-9.
Yes, so I'll just give a brief introduction again. At the July 2017 planning and zoning meeting, we tabled the conditional use permit for William Otting to move a structure onto property in the city of Cannon Falls at 1115 5th Street. It is across from the Quick Stop gas station for better reference. The item was tabled pending more information regarding parking, grading, and drainage systems and an updated site plan. As a recap, the proposed use is for Otting house movers to move a 2-family structure onto the property and then construct a lower level with 2 more apartment units, resulting in 4 individual units in the duplex, which is currently. Currently, the site's being assessed by the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the most feasible access point. We did submit 1 application to them. They now need a second application, and it could take up to a month for them to say exactly that where we have this driveway located is okay. As of now, they are saying that it's just their process, that it's okay for the driveway to be there. Let's see. Grading and drainage plans have been prepared by a registered land surveyor. I just got those, and they were at your seats when you came in tonight. I can explain some more on that if you have any questions on that later. And they'll be approved by our city engineer. And let's see here. And then we have some conditions that we outlined at the last meeting. So we are picking back up with the conditional use permit to move a structure onto property in the city of Cannon Falls.
Is there anyone here that'd like to talk or had any questions or concerns about that? Just go ahead, get up and just speak right into the mic. You don't have to necessarily, they don't have to give their name and address for this, do they?
I know them. So.
I don't think so. I think it's just make sure everybody can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't hear you.
Oh. Well, this is the time for anyone who has anything to say about this particular conditional use permit. This is your opportunity to let us know what your concerns are. Anybody?
And these are the applicants. So if you have
Okay.
questions for them too, they can answer it also, so.
Did anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Well, I think at the last meeting, at least the three concerns I had was the drainage in the back, access to the property, and parking. And I think the parking issue's been addressed. You've got parking in the back, gonna have a road in there, and I think drainage, like Mr. Hernke there was concerned about the drainage back there. As I looked at it a second time, I saw, I think everything drains from that Canon Equipment parking lot
It
into the
does.
back there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're gonna do, put in a curb or something, but as long as that issue is addressed and the city
Yeah.
engineer's gonna look at it
So
before
I know the
construction.
drainage plan is kind of small, but the applicants will have to construct a swale and a berm to the rear of the property by Canon Equipment, I believe you said. And so all of the drainage from both sides will come down into that,
Yep.
and then it will flow northward, and there's a culvert there.
Wonderful.
Quick question, has that alley been vacated, or is it still
Yes.
public property? It has been vacated?
Vacated, yes.
Okay. And, Mr. Hernke, you're in lot 5?
I don't know what it is. No, I'm not lot 5. I'm on Ohio Street.
Over here. It's over here.
Isn't that where?
Anyone have any other questions for the applicants?
He's right here. Well, the other thing that I had was,
This is the.
as long as that drainage issue is taken care of before construction, I don't have a problem with it. But I also have a thing with the access to the property.
Mhm.
The DOT evidently is looking into it.
Yes.
Who pays for that? If they gotta put in a roadway in there to get in, is that the city that picks up the tab or what?
So the actual driveway and the access onto the state highway will be paid for by the applicant. The way that the Department of Transportation works is the applicant gives a sum of money, and then if everything is constructed correctly, I forget the word for that.
Escrow?
It's accepted then?
Yes, it's accepted, and then the money is returned to the applicant. So it's just to make sure that everything goes as planned. The State Department of Transportation will determine if a turning lane or anything needs to be inputted, and that is also paid for by the applicant with their money that they put in.
Well, as long as that's taken care of and the drainage system is up and, I don't have a problem with it.
As far as the drainage system, you know, it's more than industry there. We've got everything from the railroad, both west and east, comes down there, and there is no way that it goes into the manhole down on 17. And I just want to make sure that nothing comes back to the south.
Yeah, so they will be constructing a berm and a swale on their property at the rear by the alley. And then that will direct all of the drainage to the north. And there's actually a culvert on this property as well. So it doesn't have to go all the way up to Highway 17.
Okay, I don't know if there's something that he can do, if there's something, I don't know. First of all, Mr. Pagel told me it wasn't vacated.
The alley?
Oh, the alley is not vacated. I thought you asked about the street.
No, the alley.
The alley is not
Separates,
vacated.
The parcel in question, with Canon Equipment.
Yes, that is not vacated.
That's where my question with Mr. Hernke was, I believe you are on lot 5, so that runs between you and lot 6?
I don't have a map. I don't know where I am. I'm on 404 Ohio Street.
I think you're just to the east of the alley.
Yep. On the end of the alley. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And there is no way the water gets out of there. I don't know if there's a way that some drainage can get from Ohio to 17 without cutting a lot of trees down. I know that's a long ways from,
I beg your pardon, I'd like to correct you on that. Because there's not gonna be any problem with the water drain is on the north end of that lot, and that lot is like quite big. We only need not even part of the lot to put the building.
Right. No, and to be perfectly honest, everybody's so concerned about drainage in that area, but all the drainage issues actually stem from Canon equipment. I mean, you can't have a parking lot that large where water can't get through and let it drain to the back of the lot and do nothing about it and let it go into people's yards like that.
And it's not only Ken equipment, that it's to the south also. And
Is it?
Yeah, oh yeah, and it comes off of this, this Fourth Street. We got some from the west end of Ohio comes
Yeah.
from there. And I dug holes, big open areas, let it drain.
Yeah.
And, we've had some heavy rains where it doesn't get away fast enough. And
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way that, I know curb and gutter will probably come here within the next 10 years. And I'm not looking for an assessment, but I don't know if there's a way where there can be a line dug in 217.
From Ohio.
Correct.
You were saying St. Clair Street is vacated, but
yes.
the alley is not.
Yeah, the alley is not vacated. As for a line being dug, I mean, the planning commission isn't really at liberty to answer any of those. That's more city council with their budgeting and everything like that. So.
And if they got a swale going through there, that's, and I understand they're gonna run all the water, there's no water coming from that property right now.
Mhm.
It's, most of it is coming from the east, south, and west. But,
Yeah. So.
as long as they got a swale going, they won't, run this way.
Correct.
Does anyone else have any comments? Is it your time to speak? All right, hearing none, I'd like to close the public hearing for resolution 2017-9. That brings us to discussion item, resolution 2017-9. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting. The condition is, that what we're, the hearing. Meeting for the next two.
I've got a motion by Mr. Lundell
I'll second it.
and a second by Mr. Altoff. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to Planning Commission member comments. Anybody have anything exciting to share? Hearing none. No.
I do have some preliminary plans for the winery addition if somebody wants to look them after the meeting.
Oh, yeah?
That'll be coming up.
Now that's where Lee Chevrolet had their outbuilding, right?
Yes.
Well, that brings us to number 9, adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I've got a motion by Mr. Daniels, a second by Mr. Emma. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the Monday, August 14th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.